Hey folks, so let's take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the rules. So over the past few weeks, Games Workshop has been releasing tons of information about the various different phases and really the rules in general for the new edition of Warhammer 40k. So what I want to do is, since we've had a glimpse of the core rules, I want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about these. With that said, I'm not going to touch on anything that's been released previously. We're just going to focus on anything new that I found in here. If I missed anything that's new, please make sure that you guys post it in the comments below. And of course, if I misinterpreted anything, post that in the comments below as well. When we're taking a look at these rules, keep in mind there's going to be advanced rules that are going to be released too. So this is just the basic version of Warhammer 40k. So we need to keep that in mind. We're also going to be touching on the advanced rules and pretty much the entire game overall in a series of videos that will be posted after the actual release. So I'm pretty excited, so let's jump in and really see how things go. So one of the big things is unit coherency. So in the past we looked at 2 inches for unit coherency on a horizontal plane. Now we've got 2 inches of unit coherency on the horizontal plane, but we also have 6 inches going up now. So that could pose a lot of advantages for units that have certain heavy weapons and stuff like that. And certain guys you want high, certain guys you want low. So we'll see how that turns out. The actual turn and player turn, there's been some renaming. So turn is still a turn, and a player turn has been renamed to battle round, which I really like. So it looks like when we take a look at the rules, we're going to see stuff for like durations of powers as turns or player or rounds. So that's going to be cool. The rounds are broken up into move, psychic, shooting, charge, fight, and then morale at the end. So we were expecting this, so it sounds pretty good. Movement has had a little change in here in regards to flying. So models that are able to fly or have flying, they're going to be able to jump over enemy units, and they're also going to be able to fall back and still shoot. So that's really exciting. And you're also going to have 2 different types of numbers for some of the flying units out there. So our standard jump infantry are just going to have 1 movement, but it looks like things like our monstrous creatures and our flyers and stuff like that that could fly, those guys are going to have 2 numbers in that movement characteristic, and essentially the smaller one, that first one's going to be their minimum movement, and then of course their maximum. Looks like if you're not going to be able to make that minimum movement, you're going to be dead. So keep that in mind. That's going to offer some tactics for a lot of people, I think. Now, when we're talking about things like advance, we know advance is done in the movement phase. We know that it takes the place of run. And now we know that it is a just straight up D6. Kind of hoping it was just W movement, but I guess D6, you got to have a little randomness in there. Psychic phase is broken down into a sequence of choosing the power, making the psychic test, the enemy takes deny the witch, and then you resolve the psychic power. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, when you cast it, you take 2d6 and roll against the warp charge value of the spell or psychic ability, really. And then if you are equal or greater, it goes off. Then the person tries to deny the witch. If they roll 2d6 and get above the roll that you made, so for example, you rolled 2d6 and you got let's say an 8, and they rolled 2d6 and they got a 9, then the power is stopped. That's we're either going to see a lot of psychic powers going off, or we're going to see a lot of psychic powers denied. So I'm kind of curious on how this is going to work. Is it going to tame the psychic phase? Maybe. We'll see. Just make sure you guys have psychers on the table. Another thing to mention is Perils of the Warp, which I really like. So double 1s, double 6s, Perils happens, and your psyker gets D3 mortal wounds. If they survive, cool. The power doesn't go off though. If they die, any unit within 6 inches of them gets D3 mortal wounds. So it's like they exploded, or demons are ripping at everybody, trying to pull everyone into the warp along with that psyker. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's pretty much it for psychic and movement. So let's take a look at shooting. Shooting is pretty straightforward. You're going to be choosing a unit to shoot, choose a target, choose a ranged weapon, and then resolve the attacks. So when we're talking about resolving the attack, you're going to be, well, actually, let's take a look at models with multiple weapons first. If they have multiple weapons on their sheet, you're going to be able to shoot at multiple targets. You just need to assign those targets beforehand and then go along with the resolving your attacks. Essentially, you're going to be hitting, wounding, allocating wounds, and then of course, if anything dies, the player is going to be selecting it, and it's not directional, which is kind of cool. When we're talking about saving throws, models that are in cover are going to get a +1 to the save. Invul saves are not modified. When we're inflicting damage and stuff like that, that's going to come into play after you pass or fail your saving throw. There are going to be modifiers to your saving throw, things like AP. So let's say, for example, you have a 3+ armor and you're hit with a weapon that's a, let's say, AP 2. So when you roll, you're going to subtract 2 from your roll, essentially. Now, with that taken into consideration, when we're talking about invul saves, AP doesn't affect invul, but of course cover doesn't affect invul saves either. So it's kind of interesting how they're kind of balancing that out, and I'm excited to see how it works. Now, when we're talking about the actual ranged weapons themselves, there's 5 different range types. There's assault, heavy, rapid fire, grenade, and pistol. Now, when we're talking about our assaults, these guys are going to be fast. You can advance, so you can essentially run and still fire your weapon, and it's going to be at a -1 to your ballistic skill. Or, well, your hit roll, that is, I should say. So that's pretty cool. When you are using heavy weapons, if you move, it's -1 from your roll. So you're still going to be able to get your guys to move. No more snap firing. It's going to be just -1, so that's going to be a lot better. We're talking about rapid fire. Anything within half range gets double attacks. When you're looking at grenades, a model with a grenade assigned to them, instead of using their weapon, they can throw a grenade. When you're looking at pistols, pistols have changed a lot. So they can fire when you're within 1 inch of an enemy. You basically target the closest unit and fire at it. When you're using these pistols, you can either use the pistol or your other weapon loadouts. So if you've got 2 different types of weapons and a pistol, you can either fire the pistol, or the other 2 weapons. So you can't fire all 3 essentially. So it's one or the other. When we're talking about weapons with more than 1 attack, all of the attacks have to be directed at the same target. So that's pretty much for shooting. Let's take a look at the charge phase. So charge, you need to be within 12 inches of an enemy unit. If you advanced or fell back, or you're within 1 inch of an enemy unit, you can't charge. When you're doing Overwatch, you need 6s to hit, regardless of ballistic skill. And then, of course, 2d6 charge. You're going to be rolling 2d6. You need to be within 1 inch of an enemy to be successful in your charge. Any failed charges, your models don't move. Heroic intervention is pretty cool. So after the assaults are done, if you have any characters within 3 inches of an enemy unit, you can actually move them 3 inches in. So that's kind of nice. Those characters aren't just going to be standing by going, they're going to actually be able to get in and cause some damage like they're supposed to. When we're talking about the actual fight itself, you're going to be fighting with all the units that charge because they get to attack first. And then how the rest of the round works is you just basically take turns attacking. You just go through all the guys that assaulted, they attack first, and then you just rotate who gets to attack next between yourself and your opponent. Models that are 1 inch away from a friendly model that is in combat, they can attack as well. So it kind of represents fighting in 2 ranks. So you're 1 inch away from a guy that's engaged, you can also assault as well. Pile-in moves, you need to move in closer to an enemy model, and then you can actually split attacks between eligible targets too. So if you have multiple attacks, you can send your attacks in different directions. And this kind of is a nice transition for multiple weapons in close combat. So if you have multiple weapons and you only have 1 attack, you choose one of your weapons and you attack with it. Or if you have a model with multiple attacks and multiple weapons, you can assign attacks to various different targets, as well as various different weapons too if you want to. And then once you're done that, then you just resolve it. Now, when you're consolidating, you consolidate 3 inches towards the enemy models. Morale, how that works is you're going to roll a d6 and for a unit, and any models that were lost during that turn or round, I should say, you're going to add those to your roll, and if it's above your leadership, you're going to be taking the difference in casualties, essentially. When we're talking about transports, that's another little tidbit here that's kind of nice, is models ending their movement within 3 inches of transport can embark. Destroyed transports, you're going to be rolling a die for every model inside. Ones means the model's dead, and then the player gets to choose which ones are dead, which is kind of nice, just really speeds things up. And then, of course, disembarking, you can disembark your units. They have to be within 3 inches of the vehicle. If you can't place a model, because maybe there's other models within, there's just no room to put them, or you can't actually be within 1 inch of an enemy model, then they're slain, they're destroyed. So there could be potential boxing transports in, destroying the transport, and everyone dies. So could be interesting. So with that said, that's pretty much all the rules I really wanted to make mention of and call out right now. I just wanted to try and keep this as short and concise as possible. What do you guys think? I think I like a lot of these rules. I really like how Perilous of the Warp is kind of working. I like how Deny the Witch is working. The horizontal unit coherency is pretty cool. The fly is interesting. Tau is going to be scary in some respects. Some of the other things like assault weapons, those guys are going to be so fast, and it's nice to see that heavy weapons are going to be able to move and be much more effective. And pistols are going to be pretty important in this edition, it looks like, too, although not necessarily like game breaking in any way, but they're going to be significant. So that's going to be exciting. A lot of split attacks, it looks like, in the edition. And then, of course, transports, it looks like there's going to be some potential of just outright killing units by destroying their transport and boxing them in. So should be cool. So with that said, if you guys notice anything that I misinterpreted or anything like that, please put in the comments below. What are your thoughts as well? I want to know, because I'm really curious about that. I love hearing what you guys have to say about it. If you like the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, if you missed anything previously, don't forget we also have a playlist that's cataloged everything that we've covered so far. So with that said, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye now.